When you think of the ultimate BOW, what's the first thing to come to mind? For me, it's Nemesis. Nemesis was almost everything Umbrella wanted in a BOW. It was intelligent, able to use any weapon. It was obedient, doing everything it has to complete its mission. It was powerful, stronger than any human and almost any bioweapon at the time, and it was almost impossible to kill. So how did Umbrella create almost the perfect bioweapon? The Nemesis project origins lies in the early 1980s. Umbrella had one goal for their BOWs, to be sold to the US military as the perfect soldier. There was no problem with making powerful BOWs, but making them intelligent was an issue. Because if a BOW was powerful but not intelligent, it can be unreliable and hell, even dangerous in battle. This is the reason why the web spinners and the chimeras were looked at as a failure. To fix this problem, Umbrella Europe began working on the Nemesis Alpha parasite, or the NEA parasite, inspired off of the Las Plagas parasite. The NEA parasite had one purpose: to become the bioweapon's new brain. Around this same time at the Arclay laboratory, Birkin Wesker and their team began development on the Cerberus and Hunter BOWs to make up for the fact that the T-virus beta strain couldn't infect everyone. These is words from Spencer. This is also a way for Birkin to prove that he's better than Alexia Ashford, who was 10 years old at the time. He was really out here beefing with a 10-year-old. Anyway, the Cerberus and Hunter BOW showed more promise than any other bioweapon at the time. They were able to follow simple orders given to them by their trainers, but they weren't perfect. In 1988, the Nemesis project reached a point where they can finally start implanting the parasite into hosts. However, all of the hosts were killed after the parasite was implanted. That same year, Birkin began his experiments on Lisa Trevor. During his experiments, he noticed that Lisa Trevor's brain has started to die because all of the viruses they gave her. So he thought, how about we just give her a parasite to fix that problem? So Spencer requested Umbrella Europe send an NEA parasite, because this is a great way to see if it actually works. When Birkin implanted the parasite inside of Lisa Trevor's body rejected the parasite because all the progenitor virus strains inside of her. Even though this happened, Lisa Trevor was still a success because she was the first host that wasn't killed by the parasite. Lisa Trevor also gained some of the parasite's genetic ability, and this would later lead to the development of the G virus. Not much happened with the Nemesis project after this point, but the Nemesis project isn't the only important project to the creation of Nemesis. Enter the development of the Tyrants. In the 1990s, Umbrella began working on the Tyrants. The purpose of creating the Tyrants was the same thing. They wanted a powerful BOW that was smart enough to follow orders. However, there was one problem. Researchers at the Arclay laboratory determined that in order to create these new BOWs, they would need a person with certain genes relating to intelligence, and there's a 1 in a million chance of finding that kind of person. And not only that, the current strain of the T-virus was just not great. So after doing some more research on the T-virus, possibly using Sergei Vladimir's clones as test subjects, they were finally able to complete the new strain of the T-virus in spring 1998. With the new Epsilon strain, Umbrella was finally able to start creating prototype Tyrants, because the new Epsilon strain was capable of causing faster mutations with little brain damage, and it could greatly increase size and strength of the subject. Not to mention, it can pretty much infect everybody, so anybody can be their test subjects. But of course, there's always a problem, and the problem this time is that mutating at such a rate could probably be fatal. But why the hell would Umbrella care if their test subjects die doing testing? So Umbrella R&D Center arranged for convicts to be sent to the Arclay laboratory. It's unknown just how many convicts were sent. During the experiments, the researchers had to surgically alter the convicts while slowly giving them doses of the T-virus. Out of all of the convicts, only 3 survived, and those 3 were the T001, the T002, and the T011. Out of all of these prototypes, the only one that's important to the creation of Nemesis is the T002. But if you must know what happened to the others, fine. The T001 was deemed a failure after it suffered a T-virus overdose. The R&D team knew that they had 2 choices, either send it to rehab, which is the executive training facility, or just forget it exists. They did both. At the training facility, it was defeated by Wesker, Rebecca, and Billy Cohen separately, and at the end it was destroyed with the facility. The T011 became whatever the hell this is, and it was destroyed by Chris and Jill during their invasion of the Caucasus laboratory in 2003. Back to what's important. Research on the T-002 continued, but with the failure of the T-001, Umbrella were extremely careful, and the T-002 became the first successful prototype Tyrant. After the success of the T-002, Umbrella began cloning it, and soon began modifying the clones. During the destruction of the Arcade Laboratory, Umbrella was successful in retrieving the T-002 embryonic clones, but they weren't able to retrieve the prototype itself, and it was later destroyed by the STARS members at the Arcade Laboratory. After the destruction of the Arcade Laboratory, Umbrella was successful in creating the T-103 models, the more advanced clones of the T-002. With the Tyrants, Umbrella had finally succeeded in creating an intelligent BOW. They were able to follow more complex orders than any other BOW. So when you think about it, there is no point for the Nemesis project, since that was Umbrella Europe's entire goal, to create a BOW smart enough to follow orders. Then Umbrella Europe came up with the brilliant idea to implant a Nemesis Alpha parasite inside of a Tyrant. For this endeavor, they requested a T-103 model, the same as Mr. X for those who don't know. I imagine that this was Umbrella Europe's last time to prove that the NEA parasite was a success, because outside of Lisa Trevor, there were no other successful implantations, and that was 10 years ago. After retrieving the T-103 model, Umbrella Europe implanted the Nemesis Alpha parasite, and that experiment was a massive success, creating the ultimate bioweapon. The Nemesis T-Type didn't just have human-like intelligence, but it also demonstrated rational thinking and self-awareness. Nemesis also possessed an incredible regenerative ability better than any Tyrant. I would go so far as to say it even rivals that of the G-Virus. The NEA parasite was definitely working overtime. Nemesis is either as strong or stronger than the T-103 model. During the destruction of Raccoon, Umbrella Europe began sending their BOWs. The BOWs was monitored, analyzing their combat skills. Nemesis is one of those BOWs sent not long after it was created. It was tasked to eliminate all STARS members. This was Umbrella's way of taking revenge on STARS from destroying the T-002. By the time Nemesis arrived, Jill Valentine and Brad Vickers were the only two STARS members still in the city. In the original game, Nemesis succeeded in eliminating Brad at the RPD. There, he also had his first encounter with Jill Valentine. Nemesis pursued Jill throughout Raccoon City, gaining new weapons like a rocket launcher. Jill would either manage to escape or defeat the Tyrant. But no matter how many times she defeated him, it always got back up and continued the chase. Nemesis would follow Jill to the clock tower, and as a rescue helicopter arrived, Nemesis would shoot it down, showing that as long as it's alive, there is no escape. Jill did manage to defeat the bioweapon in the clock tower courtyard, but it managed to infect her with the T-Virus. After Jill was cured, it followed her to the dead facility. There, they would battle one last time. Using a prototype roll cannon, Jill managed to defeat it. As she was about to deliver the final blow, she delivers one of the best one-liners in Resident Evil.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
If you ask me, Nemesis is up there being one of the greatest BOWs ever made. But if Nemesis was so great and powerful, why didn't Umbrella try to create another one? I have one theory. As we all know, Nikolai was one of the monitors, and at the end of the original game, his fate is undetermined. So Nikolai will either have to die or just not give Umbrella the data he collected. So my theory is that with little to no combat data, Umbrella didn't really see a point of creating another Nemesis. I imagine creating Nemesis cost Umbrella a lot of money. Not to mention Umbrella started losing money after the Raccoon incident. So to create something so expensive without knowing how well it performed isn't that smart. And not to mention the Nemesis died, so I would imagine that they looked at it as a failure anyway. I also think this theory works extremely well with the remake, since Nikolai wasn't even working with Umbrella and Nemesis was sent out the moment it was completed. But at the same time, we don't know if Umbrella tried to create another Nemesis. They could have, and it could have been a failure or a success, but we'll never know. And the way it looks, they most likely didn't try, or if they did, it most likely wasn't a success. Anyway, if you liked this video, you can give it a like. If you didn't, thank you for the watch time. The reason why this video took so long to come out, because it wasn't planned. The video that was planned to come out this week, I didn't like it and I decided to start over. And just for everybody to know, I already recorded it and I was about to get into the editing. So I did this video in like one day. I also didn't really want to talk about Nemesis' journey through Raccoon City because that is what my next few videos are going to be about. Whether I say it or not, I really hate talking about the same things over and over. Anyway, if you like anything horror game related, you can think about subscribing. Also, if you have anything you want me to cover, like another Bird's Tales, or if it's not a Bird's Tales, it's fine, just write it in the comments. You still here?